You ever wonder who's on first when it comes to how we deal with the Middle East? While the U.S. is giving the Kurds weapons and ammo to fight ISIS, my next guest says, don't be surprised if some of those weapons end up going to ISIS. Foundation for Defense of Democracy's President Clifford May says the terror group is already getting U.S. aid that was originally meant for Syrian rebels. Cliff, how did this happen?
Well, there's various ways that it happens. In some cases, what you have are the ISIS commanders taking what they want of the aid that's meant to go for the people, and then they either sell it or they give it to their fighters, their terrorists, whatever they want to do. Sometimes they hold up, essentially, the aid organizations and say, essentially, there's a tax, there's a toll. You'll give us this much, or we won't give you access to the people in need. That's essentially what we know about what's been happening.
All right, what I worry about is when we drop these aid packages or whatever, food, everything else, to weapons on areas where we think our friends are. And it turns out that's where ISIS is.
Yeah, I'm less worried about that. For one, I've been in some of these planes. You can't be 100%, but if you're dropping aid, you have some basic idea where it's going. What worries me much more is when your enemies are getting aid from American taxpayers on a regular and chronic basis. I think as a general rule, we as taxpayers, as Americans, should not be supporting through aid our enemies, least of all during a conflict. Now, take North Korea. That's an example. We've been giving them aid for years. It's a Chinese problem. They support that despicable government. We're prolonging the suffering. It's not a good idea. There are groups that we don't have control over.
How do you stop it, Cliff? What do you do? Because the argument is you cut off your nose to spite your face. What do you say?
Well, we're not cutting off our nose. We're saying to the Chinese, we'll help you on Korea if you help us on Korea. Otherwise, it's your problem. To simply give aid to people who are an incredible percentage of whom are living in concentration camps, who are literally boiling grass to stay alive, over years and years and years, you are not doing any favor for this generation, least of all for the next generations going forward. We should not be doing that. Now, there are aid organizations that are international. They're going to do what they're going to do. That's fine. Let them do it. You can't help that. But Americans should not be supporting our enemies. And again, look, the exception to the rule during the first Bush administration, you had an earthquake in Iran. We sent aid. I think that was probably a good decision in that case. It's a humanitarian catastrophe. We showed we're willing to help. But no, we're fighting a war against the Islamic State. We should not be giving them aid. We should not be giving aid to North Korea. And we should be giving aid to the Kurds, both humanitarian aid and the means to defend themselves. They should be our boots on the ground.
Yeah, but it wasn't too long ago we thought the Turks were our friends and the Kurds were less so, and now we've just reversed. See, my fear with this whole region is that we don't know who's on first half the time.
Well, we should know who's on first, and we should know who's on second, third, and home plate.
Well, we apparently don't.
A lot of people do not. And what we need to do is take a very hard look at it. And there are people, scholars, serious people who are doing that, and then come up with a strategy for some. And I would say it comes down to this: supporting our friends, fighting our enemies, making it clear that the United States is the best friend you can have and the worst enemy you can have. It shouldn't be the reverse, where we're unreliable as a friend and we're harmless as an enemy. And too often that's been our policy, and it's not the right policy.
All right. Cliff, you make way too much sense, so obviously your ideas are going nowhere. Cliff May, thank you very, very much.
Thanks, Neil.